Hello there, sociologists. Now today's video is all about Marxism. Like functionalism, Marxism is a structural theory. So they believe people's thoughts and actions are controlled by the structure of society. Because they're a structural theory, they also are a macro theory. So they focus on the big picture, on the large social institutions in society, because that's what controls individuals. Also, like functionalism, Marxism is said to be deterministic. So what this means is that individuals have no free will. They have no ability to choose how they act. They're completely controlled by things outside of themselves. So far, Marxism has been quite similar to functionalism, but here's the key difference. Marxism is a conflict, not consensus theory. Instead of seeing society as a happy and harmonious place where everybody gets along with everyone else, they see it as a place of disagreement, a place of struggles for power. To look at Marxism in more depth, we're going to look at the key ideas from three different Marxists: Marx, Gramsci, and Althusser. Let's start with Marx then. Marx liked to study history and saw that throughout history humans have needed food and shelter and clothing. And so he was interested in the way that those things were produced. He called this the forces of production. To begin with, these forces of production were just individuals making stuff with their bare hands. But then people started to use tools and more complicated machinery. They also started working together to make things, entering into social relations of production. As the forces of production evolved, so too did the social relations of production. Eventually, a division of labor occurred that created two distinct classes: the owner class, known as the bourgeoisie, and the worker class, known as the proletariat. As society develops, the proletariat end up powerless because the bourgeoisie control both the forces of production and the social relations of production. Together, these two things make up the mode of production. Now, the mode of production was crucial for Marx as it shaped everything else in society. The mode of production determines the economic base of society. Everything else in society sits on that foundation, and it's called the superstructure. The economic base determines everything about it, so all the rest of society is there in order to support and legitimate the economic base. So Marx believed that in a capitalist society, the owner class exploited the working class because the working class had to sell their labor to survive. And when they did, the owners didn't give them fair value for their work. In fact, the whole point of capitalism is to make as much money as possible by selling your goods for the highest price, but also paying the workers the lowest you can get away with. Marx believed there was a false class consciousness, where the superstructure tricks the workers into thinking either that nothing was really wrong, or that there was nothing they could ever do about it. So the workers aren't really aware that they're being exploited. Marx also believed that capitalism would bring its own downfall. As businesses compete to get more and more money, wages and conditions would get worse and worse. Eventually, things would get so bad the working class couldn't help but be aware that they were being exploited. They would become class conscious. As part of becoming class conscious, Marx thought workers would become alienated. He believed that the ability to work and create things that fill our needs were part of what it means to be human. So when people have no control over their work and it doesn't produce things that they use in their own lives, it takes away from who they are as a human being. So as conditions under capitalism got worse and worse, and as people became more and more alienated, Marx thought that they would start to realize that something was deeply wrong with society. And he thought they'd learn that the only way to fix it was a revolution, and that involved taking back the forces of production for themselves. After the revolution, Marx thought that capitalism would be replaced with a classless communist society, and everyone would share the forces of production, and everyone would be free and equal and fulfilled human beings. The problem was that since Marx's death in 1883, capitalism has become more and more developed in the Western world, and a revolution hasn't happened. Neo-Marxists try to explain why capitalism is still around. There are two main types of neo-Marxism: humanistic Marxism and structural Marxism. Earlier we said that Marxism is a structural theory, but humanistic Marxists, like Gramsci, take more of a social action approach. This means they believe people have an element of free choice and aren't completely controlled by the structure of society. Gramsci starts with this foundation to explain why revolution hasn't happened. Gramsci's main idea is hegemony, which means that the owners control the workers by making them believe in certain ideas and values. Thanks to hegemony, the working class consent to the rule of the owners because they think it's legitimate. Marx thought that economics would bring revolution, but Gramsci emphasizes the importance of ideas. Althusser is a structural Marxist who criticizes Gramsci by saying that the idea that humans have free choices is part of the false class consciousness. It's an idea produced by the ideological state apparatus. He argues that capitalism maintains control through ideological and repressive state apparatus. For Althusser, Marx's view of society was just too simple. He believed there were three parts to the structure of society, not two. And he believed the top two levels had some independence from the economic base. Revolution would happen not through human action, but through the different levels contradicting each other until they collapsed. So, there you have an overview of traditional and neo-Marxism. And I'll leave you with this. I used to be addicted to the hokey-cokey, but I turned it around. See you next time.